Hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of Will She Burn Her House Down? Actually, this week, most likely not, but there's always an opportunity to find out. So, in this week's discussion experiment, we are going to be making ferrofluid or magnetic fluid, and it kind of builds on slash provides a visual interpretation of kind of what we were or not discussing, but kind of what we were reading over in this week's material whenever we were talking about um, what's the best way to describe this? Whenever we were talking about metal ions and when they bond to any other ligand, and so how our metal ions, when they bind to other ligands, kind of act like Lewis acids in the sense that they are electron acceptors, and so then the ligand that it binds to ends up being the Lewis base as the electron donor. And the reason that we think of this as being in terms of Lewis acids and bases rather than being an ionic bond is one, because the bond between a metal ion and its ligand is considered a coordinate covalent bond because it's the sharing of electrons, but also because it's not like a balanced equal sharing. It is literally a metal ion saying I need electrons, and then another ligand saying, hey, by the way, I happen to have two electrons that I can give you. So they have two free floating valence electrons to contribute to that bond to the metal ligand. And so for me at least, when doing this experiment and creating the magnetic fluid or the ferrofluid, it kind of gives that visual representation of seeing things that are electronegatively versus electropositively charged. So without further ado, let's get into it. So okay, like I said, we are making ferrofluid or magnetic fluid, and so things that are going into that. So this is the toner that I got. Don't ask me how I got the toner powder out of the cartridge. It was not the cleanest process. But here I have 50 if I can find the mils. So here, I don't know how clearly you can see because the powder kind of covers it up, but I have 50 mils of toner powder in here. That, again, don't ask about the process. Just trust the process. The process happened, okay? Out of this toner cartridge. And so I also have some very fancy Crisco vegetable oil. Just regular old vegetable oil. I got it from Walmart, guys. And then, so unfortunately, I could not find like rare earth magnet, but I got, not this one. I got this neodymium magnet from Hobby Lobby, which I'm also planning on using later to make a necklace out of. So basically what this experiment requires is 50 milliliters of ink toner, and don't be like me. Very carefully get the ink toner out of, hopefully you can find it in a bottle. I had to get it out of an actual ink cartridge, which is why everything went poof. But anyway, moving on. So now I'm going to take my vegetable oil Sorry, I forgot a little mixer. But so I will be taking 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil and trying not to make another mess. So 1, 2, and I'm just gonna mix it until I get kind of a thin, liquidy consistency. I might need to add a little bit more than 2 tablespoons to this. Just because right now, if you can see, it's coming out a little chunky. So we want a very thin liquidy consistency. So I'm gonna add 1 more tablespoon. And we're almost there. It's still a little thick, so I'm gonna add another tablespoon. And in the instructions it said 2 tablespoons, but you know, might need more depending on the amount of toner slash depending on the toner itself. So I'm just gonna move closer so you can kind of see that it is like a thinner consistency. And then I'm gonna run off for a quick second to get a different container so that you can visualize this better. So give me just a second, I'll be right back. Okay, as promised, I'm back with 2 still glass containers, just one's a little bit bigger than the other. So I am just gonna pour some of the ferrofluid into 1 container, and then pour a little bit into a different container. And so I'm gonna go with this container first, just because I feel like you can kind of visualize a little bit better what's going on. So basically, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier or not, but the reason for this experiment that we use toner instead of ink is because toner actually has magnetic particles in it. So by mixing it with the vegetable oil, it creates a liquid suspension. And so theoretically, the magnetism should cause a reaction, which I'm not actually seeing right now. So I'm gonna switch to a different magnet to see. this week's experiment did not produce the reaction that I was expecting / hoping for. Most likely because not anything to do with the toner that I use. Also, you might want to wear gloves during this experiment as a heads up, but most likely because the magnets that I was using might not have been strong enough. So again, I did not get the rare earth magnet that was recommended for the experiment. I just kind of grabbed whatever magnet I could find. So highly recommend trying this experiment again later, which I will most likely try this experiment again later, maybe, if I can find a rare earth magnet. But that was this week's experiment. So what should have happened is basically the metal particles in the ferrofluid should have reacted in a way to kind of create little spikes, where basically the metal particles were repelled by the charge in the magnet, and that is not not repelled, but reacted with with the charge of the magnet, and that is not what occurred in this experiment. Sad face. But that is this week's discussion topic. Any questions, comments, or concerns, you can leave them in the comment section below this video. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you for our last discussion topic of this class next week in week 8's discussion. So, bye.